Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with a really nifty recording of orchestral music by Goffredo Petrassi. Yes, the interesting Italian, sometimes quasi-avant-gardist. Well, sometimes he just was an avant-gardist, but there's more to it than that. You know, there are some composers who are members of the avant-garde who had nothing more going for them than the avant part. You know, they just did noisy, squeakity, bloopity things, and it was very irritating. Well, Petrassi happened to be a real composer with a wide range of reference, and you hear it quite clearly in these three works. First, his Flute Concerto of 1960, 19 and a half minutes, single movement, and it's the most advanced work here. It is completely well, I wouldn't call it athematic because it does have ideas and they do kind of come back once in a while. You can sort of detect things happening, but it's mostly sound and texture, and it's wonderfully written for the instrument. It's so interesting. You know, if you're going to write kind of an athematic concerto for a melody instrument, which is what this is, what the flute is, then it's got to be one of those things where you place the soloist in this just sort of magical environment and let it explore the boundaries of its musical cage. And that's what happens in this piece. He doesn't have any violins or high strings in this piece. It's all cellos and basses, but, you know, woodwinds and brass and a ton of percussion. Most of it is very quiet. Most of it is very still and slow. Not the flute part, the instrumental accompaniment. It's a frame. And so you really get a sense of the solo instrument operating within that atmosphere, within that environment that the instruments create. I thought it was marvelous. I really did. I mean, it rises to some really big, scarifying, neutron chord type dissonant climaxes here and there. But by and large, it's atmosphere and a beautiful, beautiful modern treatment of the flute. I have nothing to complain about. It's really kind of cool. I don't think I play it every day, but it was fun to listen to, and I heard it a few times now, and it really holds up. The flutist is Mario Ancillotti, and he's really, really, really good. With the Orchestra Sinfonica di Roma under Francesco Vecchia, who's done all these terrific things for Naxos in the 20th century Italian music sphere. So that was marvelous, and just as marvelous, maybe more so, because it's a little bit more, friendly to the listener, is the Piano Concerto from 1936 through 1939. Another piece where, the influence of Prokofiev is actually pretty clear. At the end of the second movement, at the beginning of the finale to a certain degree, it's kind of interesting to me. Nobody thinks of Prokofiev as a composer who generated followers or offspring, but he really was, particularly in the sphere of piano writing. And someday I have to do a post-Prokofiev thing, because we've heard some wonderful, wonderful works by composers. Francesco Mignone, for example, his piano concerto. It's such a wonderful homage to Prokofiev in places, and you hear that here. You really do. But so this is a piece of music that has tunes, and it also has sort of sonata forms, kind of in the first movement. It's a neoclassical work, but it's kind of fascinating. There's a reference to the Liszt's Second Hungarian Rhapsody in the piano part. At one point, it's going do 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 like that. You think to yourself, "Wow, I've heard that before," but it's not a direct reference. It's just a taste. Really, really clever and ingenious work. The central movement is a theme and variations on a beautiful tune. I mean, it actually has melodies, some lovely melodies, and then some really advanced features as well. And the piano writing is very unusual. It's often very, very sparse, sort of like Shostakovich's, octaves and single lines, but then there's a lot of repeated note figuration. There isn't all of his music, by the way. He seems to have this texture that he enjoys, where you've got rapid repeated notes in the accompaniment over long arching sort of melodic lyrical phrases. Whether they're tonal or not doesn't really matter. And you hear the texture and you go, oh yeah, that's Petrassi. He has a fabulously fresh way of using instruments and using the orchestra as a series of chamber ensembles, more or less. You very seldom hear everything at once, and you hear unusual timbres juxtaposed all the time. It's really, really cool, and just as cool and lots of fun, although somewhat more conventional, is the ballet. La Follia di Orlando, the madness of Orlando. We all know the story of Orlando. He's the knight. He goes crazy and runs around being destructive and whatnot. But this is from 1942-43. It has 4 movements. There are 4 dance panels represented. It's in 3 tableaux, and it's just terrific. It's just a terrific piece of music. It's so much fun to listen to. And again, there's that incredible freshness in Petrassi's use of instruments and handling of the orchestra. Even at the biggest moments, you always get a sense that he's judged and weighted the sonorities very carefully to make a really fresh and interesting sound. And this also has some terrific tunes in it and wonderfully colorful scoring, and you just have to hear it because you're going to love it. So I would grab this. I really would. And it's wonderful to have to hear, the range of styles on offer too, because when you listen to the more difficult work, the avant-garde flute concerto, you really do get a sense that it's the same mind at work with a lot of the same personal characteristics, and that's what makes every noteworthy composer noteworthy, those personal characteristics. So keep on listening, friends. Oh, wait a minute. The pianist, it's Bruno Canino. Goodness gracious, I almost forgot. I was going to say, because I haven't heard him in a long time. It's so nice to see him show up. He's a fine pianist. So yes, Bruno Canino is the pianist of the Piano Concerto. And as I said, the rest is the Rome Symphony Orchestra under Francesco La Vecchia on Naxos, a terrific disc. So yes, keep on listening, friends, especially to this. Take care.